Daniel here. This is an unusual guest for CSP. And with that, I've known Daniel for years, and his opinions are his expressed on opinion, and not necessarily the opinions of CSP. So that covers your, you know what, Ari.
Thank you. Thank you for reading that. I should have Noah do that I should just record Noah and put him on before we start every program. Thank you, Noah. I'm going to mute you now.
All right. That's probably good.
Okay. Let me introduce our speaker. I'm thrilled to introduce Daniel Lappin, who's a celebrated Israeli comedy writer. His work has truly captivated audiences across television, stage, and in print. As the head writer and producer of Zehu Ze, Israel's longest-running TV show, often compared to Saturday Night Live here in the States, Daniel has brought laughter and sharp social commentary to millions of viewers. The show stars some of Israel's most famous actors and comedians, including Gidi Gov, Moni Moshonov, Dovale Glickman, and Avi Kushner. Daniel's impressive portfolio doesn't stop there. He's the creative force behind Ha-Chaim Ze Lo Ha-Kol, Life Isn't Everything, Israel's longest-running sitcom, and You Can't Choose Your Family, the Israeli adaptation of Everybody Loves Raymond, which he produced in collaboration with Emmy Award-winning creator Phil Rosenthal. Daniel's talents extend beyond television. He's also a successful playwright and musician with a unique bilingual prowess that allows him to craft humor that resonates deeply in both Hebrew and English. Born in North America and raised in Israel, Daniel uses his unique perspectives and sharp wit to highlight the quirks and challenges of Israeli society. Today, we're going to have a conversation with Daniel, and hopefully after the program, you'll know more about who he is and some of the shows and some of the challenges of doing humor in Israel in a post-October 7th world. So, Daniel, can you hear me okay? Are you ready to start?
Hear you fine.
Daniel, first of all, before we get to the harder issues about humor in Israel post-October 7th, how things have changed, how your writing has changed, what the role of humor is in Israel. Can you tell us a little bit how you got to Israel? What brought you to Israel? When did you get there?
My mother.
Your mother brought you? Did she tell you you were just going on a short trip to Albuquerque and you landed up in Israel? How'd that happen?
My mother was an ardent Zionist. In 67, I'm 64. So in 1967, I was 7 years old. And we came for a year, my father's sabbatical. And then we moved back to Toronto. And in 1970, we moved back to Israel at the end of 1970. Just a word about people that are planning to move to Israel with kids. There's no such thing as a 10-and-a-half-year-old Zionist. It doesn't exist. Kids are very conservative, and they want yesterday and today and tomorrow to be the same. So to say the move went down calmly with us, the kids, was very difficult. We didn't know the language, and then you just have to survive. And we became part of what it is. Two of my brothers, my older brothers, one lives in London, the other one lives in Boca, Florida, Boca Raton. It's being an immigrant is a hassle. You want to say something? Go on. Ari?
Oh,
you want
to... No, I just wanted to set the stage that how you arrived involuntarily to Israel.
I mean, describe it. Listen, this is not to say that I'm not talking about my commitment today to Israel or this is home. I moved back to Canada. My daughter was born in Canada, but then I gravitated back to Israel. But there's this tacit kind of understanding when I meet people who were at that formative age, if you have one child and don't screw it up, and they say, my parents brought me here. I met people from France. I'm talking about not countries like Russia where basically you're surviving, people where it was a choice. People from first world countries, they say, my parents brought me, and then there's a look, and I say, have you forgiven them yet? And they say yes, or some say no. It's a thing. It's a thing between kids who are brought to Israel at that formative age. I mean, if you do it when they're 3, 4, or when they're older, but that's a difficult age.
Do you have a self-help group? Do you guys meet and discuss this? Is this something, or just people know? They just know.
First of all, I have a sister who's a year and a half older than me. And we all built our lives here. And I have 3 kids here. I've worked here. I mean, I've worked outside. I've worked in I met you when I was working at Sony, but this is the home base.
Okay.
There might be. So just gave me an idea, maybe I'll pick it up. I'll have a self-help group for people that are
Yeah.
approaching 70.
Maybe that's either a skit idea for you, in which case just say brought to you by Ari Katz and CSP and Noah Taft, and I'd appreciate that's fine. Or it's like a whole movie or a play, whatever. It's fine as long as we get credit. I'm fine with that. Okay. So you go to Israel. You basically grew up in. Did you grow up in Tel Aviv area?
We moved to a place at the beginning called Lod. Lod was an absorption center. Now, when they allot you to an absorption center, I guess it's how much they hate you. That was pardon the word, a shithole. There were rats the size of dogs. I thought there were dogs. Hey, come here. It was phenomenal. We were there for a month, made some friends that lasted for a few years. This is post 6-Day War, pre-Yom Kippur War. Israel was an empire. A lot of people came from North America to Israel, the powerful winner of that war. By the way, look at statistics. They all left except us, I think. No, but a huge percentage went back to the States. A lot of them came here from dysfunctional 60s, thinking they could heal their families in Israel. That didn't work. We didn't come for that reason. My parents were true Zionists, and that's why they came. With a little bit bordering on religious. My father worked at Bar Ilan, which is a religious university. We kept Shabbat. I still do keep Shabbat, but anyway, go on. I'm rambling. Just stop.
Okay,
me.
I'll stop you. Stop. So before we get to kind of comedy, how you got into comedy, I mean, you are very successful in Israel. Noah tells me, like, every time I see him, he's like, you got to have my friend Daniel. He's very successful. I think you're Noah's most successful friend in Israel. Well, he had someone else from SodaStream, maybe. I don't know. The two, I don't know. One of you, you're very successful. So I guess my question is, people kept emailing me, CSP, you host these great speakers, and we look them up before the programs. But why are you bringing Rabbi Daniel Lappin to do a program on humor in Israel? And I kept telling my mom, it's not Rabbi Daniel Lappin, but if you look your name up, I know he spells it differently. The only one on the internet with a name close to you is Rabbi Daniel Lappin. You are not on social media. So you've achieved all these great things we're going to talk about, but yet you're one of the rare people that has avoided social media. Anything you want to share about that before we kind of see what you've done and why that's a surprise that you're not on social media?
Rabbi Daniel Lappin has one P in his name. I have two. Okay. So, hey, that's a huge difference there. Second of all, hugely successful in a country north of Saudi Arabia and south of Lebanon. Let's put proportions onto this thing. It's great. But it's successful in Hebrew. And I mean, I've worked in the States. I've had stuff going there. Life and everything is sold around Europe, but still the base is Israel. Now it's a non-question. I just don't have time for social media. It's I once years ago ventured into Facebook for 10 minutes. Suddenly I had like around 800 people asking to be my friends, people I've never met in my life. And I cut out of there. I just don't have time. I mean, as it is, there's no time for anything. And I have a lot of writing. Thankfully, I have work. Why would I want to waste my time with that? I know that it's a way of being existent and present. It sounds like I'm facetious. Well, I don't need some. I never had a need for it.
Okay.
But if you want me to social media, I'll do. What? Well,
I'm going to have Noah write a Wikipedia entry for you. So we'll, that will get you on there.
There is
one. No, is that, what we're going to do? One of those things where you go and there's an artist in a room and they're drawing this masterpiece as you're having cocktails and dinner. At the end, they present it. While this program is going on, Noah's going to write your Wikipedia entry. And people can, if they can watch our interview or they can watch Noah in the box, just typing away.
Luckily, he's not going to draw me. I wonder how that would come out.
I have a friend who could do that. So, okay. So somehow you got famous in comedy. Listen,
it's
how
luck.
did you, what happened?
Luck. It's luck, not just for me. Anybody who breaks into this, to this profession, writing, acting, it's luck. I have friends who, brilliant writers. You just have that stroke of luck where at the right time, I was 23 and I started in theater, and there was a director, there is a director called Mikhail Gurevich, Mickey Gurevich. And I remember when I was 23, I saw a play that this guy directed in an acting studio. And I said, I was thunderstruck. I always knew I was going to be in this area. And I saw it, I said, wow, one day I have to work with that person. A year later, we had a play on. I had a collaborator a guy called Yoni Lav, still very good friends. He writes short stories. And a year later, that was the door that was open. This guy said, we sent him a play. He said, let's do it. We did it in the acting studio. A major theater in Israel called Beit Lessing took it. It was a massive hit. I don't know why, don't know how. It was just after the Lebanese.
What's the name of the play?
Well,
What's
crazy
the name
name. We disagreed on the name. I wanted one name, the other guy wanted another name. We took all the names. We called it, they were all my sons except for Naomi or the Coast of Switzerland. And this won every prize. I was 24 years old, every prize that year. And that opened the door. Since then, I mean, like you need just the door to swing open once and you're lucky.
Do you think if you had stayed in the United States, you would have been successful?
I don't know. First of all, I wouldn't have, I was in Canada. Are there any Canadians out there?
Is that, we consider that part of the United States, but go ahead.
No, it's
Canada.
not. I'll tell you something. I'll say we, because I still am Canadian. We have that thing that you guys don't believe in. What's it called? Oh yeah, social medicine. Because and gun laws, but we'll go into that later. But it's the same country. It's not part of the United States. Yeah, more part of Europe. But we can talk about that in another
fine.
part.
Would you have been successful in Canada with the time? I mean, do you think you could have achieved the same success in Canada?
You know what? It's I don't know. It's what I wanted to do since I was very young. I wanted to be in the arts. I don't know.
Well, let me ask this before we get into actually what your writing is. Is your writing the humor that you write that is successful, like Zehu Ze, so on and so forth, and we'll get to what that means. Is that translatable into like Canadian humor, or is it uniquely Israeli? Do your gifts basically, were you in the right place at the right time because your humor fits Israel at the times you've lived in Israel, or is it translatable?
We can. Oh, hi from Toronto, from Phil Rosenthal. Oh, hi there. I'm getting a message here. Listen, what you might claim that I have a unique perspective because I'm not a suburb. I'm not from. I have both perspectives. Has anybody here ever heard of Ephraim Kishon? He was yes. He was a genius writer, and he grew up in right after the Holocaust. He got to Israel from Hungary, and he learned Hebrew at the age of 20, like Joseph Conrad, and he became a massive writer. I don't know, maybe maybe in that vein. I've had stuff of mine adapted in Europe, in Greece, in mildly successful, in in Cyprus, in the Czech Republic. I've had development deals at Sony, and I've worked there. I haven't had anything produced, but the development deal is enough. You don't need more than that. I'm talking about what they pay for development deals. I don't know. I think that, listen, I'm going to be really corny now, okay? When you write something, it touches everybody. Shalom Aleichem wrote about Cupid's, about Tevya and Cupid's, like some little village in what's it called, the Pale of Wheat in Russia.
My dad's father calls it Yechupitz.
Yechupitz.
Yeah.
And he's talking about what everybody knows: love, hate, passion, a feeling of belonging. And this won the Oscar with the Kid Fiddler on the Roof. I mean, if you're true to yourself, you're gonna touch everything. I saw. I don't know if anybody's seen the Turkish movie Yul from ages. We're talking about Turks don't understand a word, but it touches you because it's real. So I guess if anything is adaptable if it has that truth to it. And my first, by the way, the sitcom Life Isn't Everything, which is sold around the world, was about my divorce. I had a horrendous divorce.
Tell us, yeah. So that's your first show. Was that your first television show?
The log line of that show, and that's what sold it in the States. No matter how hard you try, you can't divorce your ex, and that was the log line, and that sold it. And it was about the inability to continue on with your life, no matter how hard you try. I don't know if anybody's gone through a dismal divorce, but I definitely. And amazingly, people were sitting around for 9 seasons. Are they going to get back together? Why would you want them to get back together? Everybody wants mom and dad back together. But before that show, that was my first sitcom. I had actually another one on the first channel, which was mildly successful.
What was that called?
The Kushner Show. He's an actor that starred in Life Is Everything. We've been working for ages. take a sip of water here. And I worked a lot in theater. I'm working with a guy called Dan Patterson now. He's the creator of Whose Line Is It Anyway? I don't know if you've heard about it. Whose Line Is It
Heard of it.
Anyway?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He's a British producer, Zionist, very similar upbringing to me, to mine, and probably yours, but in Britain. And we found a similar language. We worked together. We wrote a play that hopefully will go into production in a couple of months. I think that you know, comedy or a good story.
Right. I'm missing a link though. How did you get from that first success in that play to your first television writing job?
Oh, okay, that's a good point. After that first success, the play, which was phenomenal, because I had no idea. Like,
by the way, did you write the play, and do you write your stuff in Hebrew or English?
In Hebrew?
You write it English. Well, so you could write it in English and translate to Hebrew, or you could write it everything.
Why would I want to do that?
So Noah could read it, give you notes, and then you could fix it and write it in Hebrew. I don't know. Something like that. Okay, fine. That's just a question.
If I get it, I'll do it, and I'll send it to Noah. Let's see if it'll be as good. Listen, no, I'm bilingual. I write in English and in Hebrew, but my Hebrew, by the way, I prefer to read a book in English. And my wife corrects my Hebrew. I say, you can't correct my Hebrew. I make a living doing this, but they correct my Hebrew. So there's a certain kind of, I guess, a quirky approach to the language, which works. I guess we have writers on the show that are totally dyslexic, can't put two words together, but they write funny stuff. I don't know what the law, you know.
Okay, so going back, sorry. So how did you get
Anyway,
from
so
the
after
first play to television?
After the play, you know, it was just kind of purist. I'm not gonna. Me and my writing partner, we got an offer to write for Habima. That's the National Theater, which eventually crumbled and stole huge amounts of money from all writers. But this, I'm talking about in the 80s. And after that, I did all sorts of writing, but I stayed clear of television. You must understand, till 1992, Israel had one channel. It wasn't a profession you could earn a living at. It was like joke money. Zehu Ze, they paid something like $500 a script, talking about a half-hour script. At that point, I said, this was the first Intifada. My then future ex-wife and I left Israel, and I moved to Canada for 3 years, where I took writing courses. I played piano for all sorts of Jewish organizations. I'm also a mediocre pianist. I played piano in an entertainment band in the army. I can hold my own, but not much more than that. And then my ex-wife, my future ex-wife, wanted to come back to Israel, which is okay. She wanted to go home, which is totally understandable. I was thinking maybe we should stay in Canada. But she picked up and left, and I said, okay, got no choice. And then a friend of mine, Avi Kushner, who I still work with today, he was in that first play, the studio play, the one that was the big hit. He started acting in Zehu Ze. I'm talking about the original version of Zehu Ze. As you said, the longest running show in Israel. So this is 1992. And they wanted me to write for them because they saw my play that was, you know, from 7 years previous. Prior to that, and they sent me a script. I sent them a script, and I landed back in Israel after 3 years, smack into the job of writing for Zehu Ze. You must understand, this is like closing full circle with now. The Gulf War was in 1991, right? Or 91. And in those years, I was in Canada, but Zehu Ze became massive because when everybody was scared, you must understand, the idea of missiles on Tel Aviv was unthinkable. Saddam Hussein gets the patent for that one. You know, due to a missile attack on Tel Aviv, those were the headlines. And the only people that had the guts to stay around and put on a comedy show was Zehu Ze. And they became like, it was huge. And when I landed in Israel 6 months later or 7 months later, I landed into the most popular show, and I started writing immediately. Just landed and started running. And it worked. It was a lot of fun. As this is after saying I'm not going to ever write for television, but you got to make a living. I had a little kid, and it was fun. And they raised the salaries literally by 10, 15, multiplying by 10, 15. You could live on it. And then I got an offer to write for Laila Gov, the Gidi Gov show. And then and all sorts of offers came in for television. And I kept on doing theater, but television took in more took more time. And that led to the sitcom and stuff, and always doing theater. And lately I've gone back to theater, which we'll talk about as you lead the conversation.
So what made you bring the Everyone Loves Raymond comedy to Israel, and how did that go? How was that?
What made me do it?
What were the
Because
challenges doing that?
the head of the network offered me a huge deal. That was the only reason. I had zero interest in doing it. I don't care to do an adaptation of something. It was just like putting old soup on the oven and mixing it. I got to meet Phil Rosenthal, and we became very good friends. And we had another. We actually sold. We had an option for something, a development deal along with Aaron Shore with Peacock, and we've done other stuff. And we worked in Israel on some stuff, and that was the good thing about it. It was great working with him. He's brilliant. But doing, as far as the challenge of doing a show that was done, it was fun. It was okay, but it wasn't the most important thing. Sorry to disappoint you with not, no romantic. By the way, the muse for writing is deadline and overdraft. You must understand. Go on.
What so the actors you worked with are some of the most famous. The funny thing about Israel is that here in the United States, we've been importing some of your shows, and so we get to watch them on Netflix. And one thing I've noticed is basically it's the same actors in every show. They just have different roles. And it seems like in comedy, maybe it's a small country, so I'm not sure there's a big stable of actors and comedians. But you've got
we brought Elon Gold here, and he did a phenomenal. He just like last season for Zehu Ze, and I wrote a piece where he did Trump. He's a friend, and we're also working on a co-production. And he did Trump. I think you can see it on Elon Gold's whatever. But take a look at it. It's hilarious. And the guys from Zehu Ze are sitting and interviewing Ms. Trump. And then Netanyahu gets up and they hug each other and make up after the huge feud. But anyway, your question was, I think I led us down a blind alley, yes?
My question was really, okay, so there's really a handful of actors and actresses. You've worked with some of the most famous comedians in Israel. What's that like? And do you have any funny stories to share, or anything you can share?
First of all, it's great. It's great. Let me tell you, it is great. The 5 people for Zehu Ze, I don't know how many of you have heard of Zehu Ze. They're brilliant. By the way, here's the crazy thing. I am co-showrunner of the show, not the only show. I'm head writer and co-showrunner. A woman called Etianeta, who's like a goddess in her field of editing and non-writing executive producer. She put the whole thing together. But there's no real editor that gives we in the editing suite, when we edit the show after we shoot it, we will then make decisions without them. But in choosing the material, the 5 actors they decide. It's like having a car with 5 drivers. It's insane. It's very difficult. But each one of them is brilliant. I've never seen actors on that level. I mean, I've seen, but each one of them is they're good people. I enjoy working with them. Sometimes I want to kill myself when
let's just talk about Zehu Ze for a second, because most of us have never seen it. You can look it up. I looked it up. You can watch some episodes. There's actually English subtitles.
But you'll see episodes from now and 30 years ago. It's the only show in history that I know of that had a break for 30 years. And why was Zehu Ze brought back? Because the Corona set in, and all these guys who were so busy had nothing to do, and we needed them for the morale, because this is what they did. Just a minute, during the war, the Iraq War, the Gulf War, they were there as a morale booster, and they said, okay, they have now become the morale booster. We've written skits that every time something bad happens, they get back together. And after the Corona ended, they were brought back in because of the war, the 7th of October. I mean, we were going to continue with the season anyway, but suddenly they're the morale booster again. So we're now wondering, maybe it's because they get back together, and that's why the wars break out. Yes.
Maybe they're behind everything. That's a good conspiracy theory to share online.
No conspiracy theory.
I see people asking questions like, hey, how do we see Zehu Ze? Can you send us some links? After this program, like we do with every CSP program, there'll be a detailed follow-up, and I'll put links in, and you guys can watch some of it. I guess my question was Zehu Ze, and this comes from Noah, because Noah created all these questions. I'm not asking anything original here. It was written by Noah, the staff writer for CSP. Can explain to us what Zehu Ze is, and like what kind of are there any limits as to what you can make fun of on that show?
Okay, Zehu Ze started in the educational channel. There was an educational channel it started I think in 1977. These actors who are now in their 70s, they were then in their 30s. And it started as a kids magazine where they would, we have a musician, we have a pianist here, and then these guys said, hey, let's have some connecting lines, some jokes in between. And they started to write for themselves. And they brought, I was too young to write, I was in high school, but they brought in script writers to write those jokes in between. Then they said, hey, let's have a story. They created, and that's why, by the way, till today, there's no final editor, no total showrunner, because it started like that. It then turned to satire, and there's some hilarious stuff from the 90s, from the 80s and 90s. I worked there from 92 to 98. Like that's considered the original show. And it became a satire show where we would touch, the head editor or main executive producer in the educational television called me in once, and she complained. She said, "You see this?" I said, "What is that?" She said, "These are the complaints I get for your shows because you're being too edgy." I said, "What did I do?" After Rabin was killed, I wrote a skit about the national religious school where they're teaching the 9 commandments. Okay, this is after, and they got piles of shit for this thing. And I said, "You want me to stop?" She said, "No, you got to continue." So this is the message you get: go as edgy as you can. And sometimes by the way, a lot of the stuff we did was just funny nonsense humor because that's what they like. These guys like. But every now and then we will, we'll touch a nerve. Not left or right. It'll be usually if it's a right-wing government in there, we'll hit that one. If it's a left-wing government, nobody wants to do. We get a lot of criticism. Why do you criticize the government? Who are we going to criticize? The opposition. Of course, you always criticize the government. Sometimes we go a bit too far. There's stuff that I've written that I've even been sorry about. I'm not going to even go into it. But I guess as far as the then in as Corona said in the new first channel, which inherited the educational television, called us back in, and since then we've been on. I remember I got a call from Etiennetta. This is the non-executive, non-running executive producer. She said, "I'm calling you in. We're going to do 4 specials. That's it. We're now 108 shows later." And it doesn't look like it's stopping. I guess.
How does your
very popular? Let me tell you. Hold on. It's very popular. Very, very popular. There's also a song. There's music involved in it because Gidi Gov. I don't know if anybody here has heard of Kaveret. He is one of the stars of Zehu Ze, and it gravitates towards musical covers that we do. What did you want to say?
Oh, I was going to say, so before my next question. So my original question, I feel like I'm on like a CNN interview and I'm not going to give up on the debate, right? So the actors, like, do you interact with these actors? Do you hang out with them? Do you laugh with them? Do you like?
Well, first of all, Avi Kushner, he's one of the 5. He's a friend. We were in the army together. We met at the age of 18 and 19. He was in the Air Force Entertainment Unit, and his band refused to accompany him in a piece. And our band was there. He came up to me and said, "Will you accompany me?" I said, "Sure." It was some jazz piece he needed us to do. And since then, we've been inseparable. We've done separate stuff, but we had that play. We had the sitcom. Right now, we have a play running in Israel. It's a hit, Beit Lessin. The other guys, I've worked with Moni Moshonov. I've worked with Gidi Gov. To say we hang out, these are people I see more than my wife because we work. When you're at the studio, you live at the studio. Luckily, the studio is literally 200 yards away from my house. That's, by the way, that's how I choose a studio. If it's close to my house, I'll work there. Otherwise, don't bother me. But luckily, this one is Herzliya Studios, right beside my house. And I see them all the time. Now we're on a break, a 6-month break, but you're asking, are we friends outside? We're work colleagues. I don't know how to put it, but we were very close.
So, thank you for
By the way,
that.
there's also endless WhatsApp groups. I don't know if in the States, if you know what WhatsApp is, but
We don't
and
use that, no.
where everybody has somebody gets an ingrown toenail, and we all know about it. Go on.
That's good. So how does we did a program with the head writers of Hayudim Baim, Jews Are Coming.
Take
So
that shit.
my
Go on.
question is, how does your show differ from them, and do you like their show?
No, I don't like their show at all. I think their show, not because I'm you know, on the from spectrum. You know what? I'm not going to trash another show. I know the writers; they're very talented. They've won every prize possible. So have we. But I know them. Yeah, I'm going to start stuttering. Go on. By the way, Eretz Nehederet is a wonderful show. That's I don't know if you've spoken to people from there, but I recommend that one. That is, we shoot in the same studio, by the way, sometimes on the same days. And one day they had a skit where they were parodying the guys from Zehu Ze. They have brilliant makeup artists. So I suddenly see double because they were all dressed up as the Zehu Ze actors. That's a brilliant show. Yudim Baim is a different kind of show. It's not a weekly show. They write all their scripts. It doesn't react. It's sort of a sketch show based on common memory of Jewish history. Sometimes it's funnier, but it's brilliant production value, even by Israeli standards.
Okay, so let's go to kind of the question that you and I talked about before we even started. How do you write comedy after October 7th in Israel? How has it changed?
Okay.
You know.
Okay, first of all, let me start by saying, everybody, look at this room. You see, it looks like a very Spartan room. There's a teenage locker behind me. I am right now in the safe room. This is called the safe room, and it's after the Scud War, after the Gulf War, it was mandatory that all new apartments that were built have safe rooms that are reinforced concrete with metal bars. Behind me, there's a window here, so it's not cluttered, because when there's a siren, there hasn't been for quite a while, we all run in here. We're in the center of Israel, Herzliya. It's a suburb of Tel Aviv. So this is why this room looks so pathetic. But my wife moved me in here, and this is my office, which is great, because when there's a siren, I can just keep on working. Everybody runs in. Now, as far as writing, I have a play. How many people are acquainted with the judicial reform that Israel was going through right before October 7th?
This group is very well informed on that, I would say.
Okay. I have a play called Ben Kodesh LeCholon, which is a play on words. Kodesh is holy. Chol is secular. Chiloni, Chol. Cholon is a city. So Ben Kodesh LeCholon is a play on words. And I wrote a play that was supposed to open on the 7th of October. We woke up on the 7th of October at 6:30 in the morning with endless sirens, groggy-eyed. We all ran into we had just finished the high holidays here. It was the last day. It was Simchat Torah. You guys get 2 days of that. We get one here. And we all ran into this safe room. And we had no idea. And slowly but surely, I mean, I do not turn on television or radio on Shabbat. I keep Shabbat. But you can hear people in the street, and my wife is secular, and news started to filter in. And it was clear there wasn't going to be an opening on the 7th of October. That same week, on the 10th of October, we were supposed to have our first episode of that season of Zehu Ze. So, smack right. How do you do a comedy show on the 10th of October? So we all meet. We let all the other writers go, because what are you going to write? I mean, it's me and another writer who sometimes doubles as we switch as head writers. And we sat around thinking, what are we going to do? And some said, let's not do anything. Some said, let's sing songs. Now, the Gidi Gov, who is one of the stars of Zehu Ze, had a show on when Rabin was murdered. I don't know if you can imagine what Israel was like. And I'm not talking left or right. Israel was in mourning. It was like some kind of heart-wrenching time. And we were doing that show, Laila Gov, and it was reminiscent. how do you do a show with the numbers? This is the first week, and the numbers kept on going up of how many people were slaughtered, and the pictures were coming through. And how do you do a show? So one of the directives that we all came up with, I was supposed to write a skit, a not funny skit, okay? And the other writer, and the rest was going to be interviewing kids that survived, that were living in the area around Gaza. We were going to talk to them, kids, because they have a way of saying, not kids that saw any terrible. There was a kibbutz, well, I can't remember the name, not Nirim, Zikim, where for whatever reason, because of there was a group of people that were guarding the kibbutz. It's called the Konenut, Kitat Konenut. I don't know how you translate it, but it's a group of people that were on guard, guards from the kibbutz itself. They managed to stop the slaughter. The beach, their beach, there was a slaughter, and we got kids from there, and we did what we did in Lilo Gov. Gidi Gov interviewed them, and I wrote a skit. We used to have a skit during the Gulf War where they did 3 old guys that are talking and trying to understand what's happening, trying to understand the news. And these 3 old guys, I wrote them again. By the way, they didn't need much makeup art anymore at this age. And I wrote that too, by the way. Well, we don't need any makeup art. And they're trying to understand what is happening. And one of the characters, Moshonov, who's a brilliant actor, I get chills when I think of how the audience reacted to this, because it's bringing me back to a very difficult time. Let's drop it. Let's go to something else. I'll get back to this in a second. It was very effective. People in the audience were tearing up. It was a very hard time.
Well, I'll ask while you.
What?
I said I'll ask a side question.
Wait, let's get back to the play. Let's go to the play.
Wait.
Play.
Are these television shows in front of a live audience? Is that recorded?
But now there was we had a lot of people that we brought in, but basically cameramen and people that come in, but it's not officially a live audience sitting there. Yeah. But there were a lot of people there, and people ran out bawling their eyes out.
Yeah.
It was we had to make sense of these 3 characters were sort of speaking the voice of how do we go on and how do we see some optimism here. And by the way,
I can find that clip. I can find that. Can I find that clip to share with our audience after the program?
That first week, the 7th of October. And there's a saying in Hebrew, I think in English too, a song by Shalom Chanoch, which is a quote. When is it darkest? Before dawn. I guess you have something like that too. And this guy, Moni Moshonov says, I got up early in the morning. I did a scientific experiment. And what was it? I wanted to see if it was the darkest because it was before dawn. And then he admits that he's scared, and they end up holding hands. This is something that's never been done on Zehu Ze. We never touched anything emotional, but we decided we're going to go that way. And the response, it was like some kind of medicine that people got. And we kept on writing those 3 characters. Sometimes they were a bit more satirical, but that first month and a half, we didn't touch satire. We just did some broad comedy, songs, and slowly but surely we started to ease back into comedy, into satire, into making a statement about the government. And we even got edgy at a certain point. But that first month and a half was wow. It was very hard. As you saw, I even had trouble getting, it just brought back the memories. So everybody knows somebody. Everybody knows somebody. I have a group of 2 friends that were beatbox. They were actors, musicians. One of them in Gaza, literally, he was holding the door of the safe room. I called him up that evening. Miracle, he got out of there. Him and his family, and he was holding, and there are terrorists on the other side. His whole wife's family was wiped out. Nobody can escape it. This is how we live now. By the 7th of October, Israel is not the same as you remember. It's a different country.
But how is the show like now? How many months is it? 10, 11 months? Gosh, it's almost a year, right? It's like 300 and something days. If I look at Zehu Ze, the most recent episode, whenever that was, and compared to the year before, is it a different show now? Or is it basically back to where you were before?
Yes, of course. First of all, because we deal with the current events. So it's always a different show. But the first month and a half, I've never seen, you know what it reminded me of? Remember after 9/11, Saturday Night Live got on. And I took a line from there, and we started doing opening monologues. We've never done that before. Monologues with 5 people, so it's dialogues. And in Saturday Night Live, I don't know if you guys remember, the first show after 9/11, Giuliani was on there, and he was thanking the firemen. And then Lorne Michaels walked in and said, "Hey, Mr. Giuliani, can we be funny now?" Is it, And Giuliani said, "Why start now?" Which is a great joke. And so we didn't, it doesn't translate into Hebrew, but in the opening monologue that we did, there was this thing like, we'll try not to be funny, but if a joke escapes us, forgive us. Is it time? Can we laugh yet? Can we smile? And the first whole month was, okay, a little joke, no more. And it's a matter of feeling the pulse, going like, so is it a different show? Yeah, it's a different, of course. First of all, we started to do music live. It was always pre-recorded. No, now it's all live. I don't know why that hit a note, double meaning, double entendre. But and we added another song. There's something that makes, when they see those 5 guys sing, and they're very musical, 2 of them are professional singers and the rest are very musical. There's something that makes people feel back at home again. It's like, hey, getting guys that you've seen for the past 40 years in your living room, yeah, they're singing for us now.
So just to change subjects a little bit, how do you toggle between writing for television and writing plays? And what are you working on right now? And
Wait,
are they similar? Because is it humor, or what are you writing?
It's totally different writing. Totally different way of writing. A skit is like the difference between telling a joke and writing a story, even a short story. But the play that was supposed to open on the 7th of October, what happened there? Okay, so the head of the theater, a lady called Tzipi Pinis of Beit Lessi, forced us to come down a week later to do a run of the show. We don't forget. We all hated her for that. Yeah, in your mind, there's missiles, and then we came, and we did it in the small theater, which is called a safe area. It's underground, so it's like a bomb shelter. There were sirens going up, and in that week, I started to rewrite the play because it had nothing to do with judicial reform anymore, because the play was about the judicial reform, and there was a lot of rewriting. And we opened up in November, and suddenly we had an idea of ending the play where there's a total problem. It's a story about a guy that has 2 families. He's secular and he's frum and stuff. And supposedly the end of the play ends where there's no solution. And Kushner, the guy from Zehu Ze, takes a step forward and he says, "We can't end the play like this. He said, we can't have a bad. We need a good ending. We're in the middle. Look, there's missiles outside, but we're in the theater. We can do whatever we want." And he rewrites the ending on stage, and that hit that. I had no idea it was going to work. By the way, you never know what's going to work. Anyway, that was, and it's been running since then. It's like,
I guess what's the name of the show?
The play.
Yeah,
I said Ben Kodesh LeCholon, between
okay,
holy.
right.
Yeah.
So, but I guess my question was about writing. Are your plays like comedies? Are they dramas? Are they dramedies? Like, what, if you had to describe your plays?
I would say they're comedies with heart. When I was younger, I always used to, mock at heart. No, it's always, but no, it's a story about a couple that can't get married, but has to get married. There has to be some heart. There has to be people saying, what's going to happen? When you writing a play is telling a story. And when you have people sitting in their seats and you want to tell them a good story, do they get married in the end? Do we catch who did it? Do we know? You want to know how it's going to end. You want to keep the pages turning. I find it easier to tell a story through comedy, but we want to tell good stories. That's the idea. It's a totally different craft than writing a skit. By the way, writing a sitcom it's closer to writing a play.
So if basically someone said to you, for the rest of your life, you only can either write for television or write plays, what would you choose?
Wait, say that again. I drank water and
Yeah, sure. If someone approached you and said, "Here's the deal. You have a choice going forward now." I forget how old you are, but assuming you have, hoping you have many years ahead of you in writing, you can either write plays or write television. You can't do both. What would you choose?
Oh boy, why would I want to
Because I'm asking the question, I made it up.
oh, I see.
You have
I
to
see.
choose.
Yeah. I'd probably go with the plays.
Yeah. So where you started from.
Yeah, it's first of all, I don't you know what,
I promise you could do
I have
both.
a
I'm just
deal with you
asking the
here.
question.
Can I write plays but pitch outside in the States for television?
No, you can only write plays or do
You're a
TV.
difficult guy. You're a
I know.
difficult. I'll write plays. The life of a hit play in Israel is good.
Oh.
It gives you financial security for a year, 2, 3. By the way, the television, the residuals are also okay. I don't know. You know what? You decide and you tell me what I should do. I'm not gonna.
Okay. It's funny because I didn't hear the answer because there was instability in the internet. I don't know whether you're faking it or if it's real, but I couldn't hear the answer.
I'm not faking it, but to my defense, in our defense, we're in the Middle East. We have many camels around here. That's what we're good at. You froze.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still here. See, I'm moving on.
Yeah, great.
You're
Yeah,
the
I
one
see.
freezing, I think. Okay. So here's a question for you. So do you watch some of our shows here in the United States? And if so, what do you like?
I used to watch everything. I used to watch everything. And at a certain point, I just stopped. I couldn't. I'll tell you something. It's really weird. When you're editing the show, you're sitting in front of a screen for sometimes 6, 7, 8 hours. And I did Life Isn't Everything. I would move. Noah, you know this. You know what it is sitting in the editing suite. You sit there for. I just couldn't watch a screen anymore. That's why, by the one of the reasons I went back to theater. I just could not look at a screen anymore. I'm trying to. I couldn't. Something neurological happened. I couldn't follow a story. I could see a play. Suddenly, my kids forced me to watch. Forgive me for this. Stranger Things season 4. Saw it every now and then, but I think I'm updated. Call Saul. Is that what I saw season 3 or 4 of that? I see a lot. I used to see a lot for the past since the corona. I've sort of. I'm aware when I have to watch, I will watch. I mean, I was pitching some stuff in the States, and it was clear that I had to see certain stuff. I was doing some stuff in Britain, in the UK. I watched some stuff. I'll see what I have to see, but I can't say that I binge anymore. I just don't have strength for that.
Do you go to the theater in Israel to see other people's shows?
Yeah, sure. Lots.
What show is on right now that Noah should see when he comes to visit?
First of all, my show. In Israel, by the way,
he hasn't seen your show? Oh, he's in trouble.
No, he was on a very tense visit here. I took him when he was here. I took him in Dahlia to see a brilliant group called Quarter to Africa. It was, I don't know if you guys like world music with sort of Oriental and jazz, but no, he didn't care to see my play. He didn't care to see my play. By the way, in Israel, we do they broadcast subtitles for the plays. In Habima, I saw some great stuff. Some Hanoch Levy, I don't know if you've heard of him. Beit Lessin, there's a thing called Datiloni. The main names mean nothing to you, but there's a nice theater scene here.
Perfect. Do you go to New York to see shows?
I haven't been in New York, I don't know, 14 years. In London, my brother lives in London. I see a lot of stuff in London. Yeah.
They're almost as good as Broadway, so that's fine.
Yeah, almost as good.
I mean, they're like really off. I mean, they're very far away, so they're considered off Broadway, but it's fine. Dave, people have been sending me questions. David wants to know how your Jewish religious observance is reflected in your plays and/or your television shows.
Totally. By the way, I'm so lucky. I wrote a play. The previous play, Beit Lessin, was about a guy. It's based on a true story. A guy that has 4 gay mothers. I heard about this guy, not a Jew. I went to the theater to pitch a story. Beit Lessin. This is after several years of not doing theater, and I pitched a story about 5 old ladies that kill an old lady in the ward. Something inspiration I got from my mother being in a ward. And they, as I was pitching, they sort of fell asleep. And then they said, "You have another idea?" And I just out of nowhere pitched an idea that I had for a sitcom. And it was about a guy that has 4 lesbian mothers who wants to marry the daughter of a rabbi. And the next day I had a contract on my table. And it took me, I think, a month to write a first draft. And luckily Corona set in. I had a whole year of just rewriting. And the play was a huge hit. It was on till a couple of months ago. A 3-year run in Israel is a very, very nice run. And it dealt with a rabbi and the gay community. And you saw people sitting in the audience together and sort of connecting to it. And I really see that as a privilege because my Jewish background, I was in yeshiva, along with I don't know, I guess a liberal view within boundaries, works together. They love it at the theater. They said, "Keep on writing that stuff. We need it." And the new play is about a guy that couldn't decide. He wanted to be secular and he wanted to be frum. So he gets 2 families. He has 2 families and he keeps them apart for 26 years. He thought it would last for like 6 months, but no, it lasted 26 years and it blows up when his daughter and his son want to get married. They said they meet. Oh no, how do I stop that? Anything can happen with that wedding. And again, it's frum people come to see the play and secular people, and there's something that connects them to it. I don't think that's all I'm going to be writing, but it's very easy for me to live in both worlds because I live in both worlds.
So thank you, David, for that question. In our last few minutes, if you could,
Thank you, David. It was a good question.
it was way better than anything Noah wrote for me. Just want to put it out there. I'm going to
No,
hire I'm going to hire this guy David to do
Talk about your friends. You should reassess that. Yeah.
I probably am. Dave, I'll have to hire David for CSP going forward. I don't think I know this particular David, but have any of your plays been like offered outside of Israel? Like picked up like in
Four Mothers play was offered in France. I actually had on off-Broadway a play when I was in my 20s. It was a comedy review with a mime artist. Yeah, I know. I wrote script for a mime artist. Huge guy, a huge success. He's got a show in Vegas now. But no, it's very local, very Israeli. The Four Mothers has a chance of moving outside. There's some interest in that. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But I'm not very prolific. I've written like 10 plays in my whole life. I've been much more, I've concentrated much more on television. I'd love something to get outside. But no, the answer is nothing has been produced outside of Israel.
Okay, CSP audience, let's see what you can do. We have something called the CSP bounce. Anybody that appears on our show, their careers, whatever level it is, goes up a notch. So, we look forward to seeing one of your shows. Oh yeah, it happens all the time.
So I should.
It's a known thing. So what are you working on now?
You go to Rabbi Daniel Lappin. He'll go up a notch. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, probably Rabbi Lappin will get a bounce out of this program. What are you working on now?
I'm working on okay. Elon Gold, you probably know him. Elon Gold, my wife, who's also a scriptwriter, we worked together and we actually survived it. And the 3 of us wrote a pilot for Elon Gold about a family that immigrates to Israel. Elon Gold thought he was a huge hit in Israel till he realized that only on like 2 streets in Jerusalem they know he is. And we wrote a pilot about him dragging his whole family here. He's working on a different business model. We're getting funding part from an Israeli broadcaster and part from American. That's something we're developing, and it's moving pretty nicely. We already have, as I said, the pilot. We're going to have to rewrite it post 7th of October because we wrote it before. I'm working on a play for Haifa Theater. There's a Haifa Theater. The play that I tried to sell to Beit Lesson about the old ladies in the ward in the hospital, that one is going into rehearsals in a week, actually. A week from today, we're starting. The play's finished. And I'm working on a new play for Beit Lesson about a guy whose mother dies, and they tell him that he's not Jewish. He discovers he's not Jewish for the first time in his life, so he can't bury her in a Jewish cemetery. And he discovers, wait, are my kids Jewish? So he's Jewish. Why? His whole life starts to unravel. It turns out it was a big mistake. But anyway, that's something I'm working on for Beit Lesson. So yeah, I'm working theater and television. And of course, the season the Zehu Ze season will start at the end of October.
Okay.
Unless
Well,
we have some huge catastrophe and they'll call us back in.
right. Well, I think we made it through an hour unscathed, Noah. Did we do okay? Thumbs up? No problems? Okay. We made it through an hour, Daniel. Thank you so much for sharing
Great.
your story and about your writing. And now, this whole CSP world knows who you are. I'll send them clips. They can enjoy Zehu Ze. When they go to Israel, they can go see some shows. And
The CSP have countries like mayors and presidents, like a huge universe, like the Marvel universe. Are there superheroes?
yeah, slightly bigger than Marvel Universe. And the nice thing about going to see a play in Israel is that you'll meet Daniel because he also works at the concession stand. It's just a very small country. So you can order popcorn, whatever it is, you say hello, I'm looking forward to your show. And afterwards he comes and picks up the popcorn. So if you stay, right, I mean, they can meet you outside the theater or inside, just in their chair.
Genius, a playwright in Israel called Hanoch Levin. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He would go see every play every night. I can't think of any experience that I would detest more than going to see, again, the actors destroy your lunch. Like, that is like the definition of torture. It's like sitting and watching your own show again and again and again. That's the definition of hell. But if you want, I won't wreck your joke. Yes, I'll sell you popcorn and whatever.
It's not a joke. That's what I'm being very serious. People need to understand how Israel works in the theater, but they will believe me too. They'll be looking for you. I think when we come back to Israel, what we'll do is hopefully we'll actually see your show. Maybe you don't have to watch it with us. Maybe we'll meet you afterwards. People can ask you questions. Is that okay?
Definitely.
Noah will tell us next time that you actually have a show that we can go see. He didn't bring it up. We were all just standing there outside a theater. We're like, hey, we've got 3 hours. There's something we could do. And like literally we're standing outside this theater and Noah's like, no, let's just go get a beer. So we all just kind of went that way.
You mean play? Show is television.
Play. That's a much more serious word. My kids are 6 and 8 and they play all the time. So I guess that is a better word to use than show.
Playwright, okay. Writer. Okay.
Well, thank you. I want to wish you a healthy week, a safe week. Elul is coming, right? I want to wish you a happy Elul.
Anile Dodili, it's called.
Correct.
The month before Tishrei, where you got to prepare for the cleansing. It's a heavy month. It's
a fraught year for all of us, and obviously for you in Israel. So we're with you in spirit. Some of us maybe be there. I don't know if Ahuva will be this year. Ahuva usually goes to Israel. I don't know what's going to happen. But
what, you're mumbling? Yes.
Oh,
what?
You couldn't hear me? I was just saying something nice about Ahuva Ho, one of our patrons who comes to Israel quite a bit and is sometimes there for the holidays. I don't know, but I just wanted to say thank you for spending time with us. Keep safe. Keep writing. We look forward to seeing you on television and in the theater. And thank you, Noah, for bringing this program to CSP. Thank you all for being with us. I need to go find my children and play with them. And we'll see you guys a lot. Daniel, nice meeting you. Nice spending time with you. It was fun. We'll do it again.
Great, sure.
Okay. Bye. Bye, everybody.